Welcome to the Q&A series with Jill Eng, Mindful Reality. These are specific questions asked by real people, answered through the lens of this practice. I also offer coaching sessions in this work, as well as the opportunity to purchase personalized recorded responses to your own questions through private recordings. Please refer to the website for more information on both these services. So Martin writes, the recent COVID pandemic has had a lot of people seeing benefits of working from home or having more free time to themselves. It just seems to be in the public consciousness now with mass resignation, like there's an angst in the country. And I can feel it too, but also have obligations, be it social or work. I feel trapped in different areas of my life and would like to just say the hell with it all. But I find myself in uncomfortable situations that I don't want to be in, and I'm always trying to devise a way out of them instead of just accepting it. Sorry, I am a creative person and would much rather be focusing on my own interests than responsibilities that I'm being forced into. What are your thoughts on this? So, what I love about this work is that although it is a very specific kind of self-inquiry technique, similar to somebody like Byron Katie's work, it is designed to invite the kind of questions somebody would ask even if they were just going to regular psychotherapy. But it's not going to be answered in that way. So I am looking through a certain lens of pressure that we feel to make changes in our life and to fix things in our life. Basically, to save us in some way from our emotional and psychological pain. As Martin says here, he feels trapped, uncomfortable in situations that he doesn't want to be in, and always trying to devise a way out instead of accepting. So I like the way this is presented, in fact, because it gives the opportunity to identify the problem as the feeling, right? The feeling of feeling trapped and the pressure to find a way out. And because, Martin is writing to me because he knows that my work is about acceptance and the fact that the only way out in terms of our momentary ability would be to find a way out of the pain that isn't necessarily about changing the situation. That doesn't mean that the situation won't change at some point in Martin's life, because life is in a state of constant change. And although right now, or maybe for, a while up until now, Martin's life has presented a certain way in terms of activities that he finds himself in, that doesn't mean that suddenly Martin won't, just get up and make some change, quit a job, start a new job, have a conversation with someone, get an email from someone. This is how things happen, right? They happen because we suddenly find ourselves doing something new, or we suddenly find ourselves having an idea that then leads to witnessing ourselves doing something that reflects that idea. Or again, out of nowhere, somebody reaches out with a new idea. I mean, things just change all the time in ways that we could never predict. So this work does not address ways to get yourself out of your situation. This work addresses very specifically taking your thought, your feelings that are bringing you pain, and putting them up against what I call the physical reality principle. That is, what is the physical reality of how you find yourself spending time, so that you can realize that there is no other option other than how you see yourself spending time, but that is only up till now, right? Because when you look at your body in the space, you can't really deny that it's there in the space. And I very much outline what that means. Like you are a physical whole skeletal structure sitting or standing or lying down on some surface. You never disappear from the space. You're always in the space. And you only know what you're doing by looking at your body in the space, and you see what you're doing, and then you know, oh, I'm sitting here, recording this recording right now. And for better or worse, what we see, that task being, is already over by the time we see it. This is a big piece of my work. This is what makes me come to the conclusion that there is no way to do something voluntarily the way it feels. It feels like we can take a problem, a perceived painful problem, and we can somehow drum up the right thought to have to conquer the problem, and then somehow take the thought and turn it into a bodily movement, which I would call action. So in my work, I address action as bodily movements, skeletal movements. That's really all we can ever call an action. The body is somewhere very specifically placed in a given moment, and its bones are moving. And that includes its head and its mouth, with words coming out, words that we don't know what they're going to be until they come out and we hear them, and our fingers moving, which make text messages and emails and phone calls. So actions are just the body moving in real time in the spaces that it's occupying. So the real problem is that it feels like, and evolution has wired us this way, it surely feels like not only can you drum up your own thoughts and solutions to all your problems, but it feels like there is a mechanism in us, an inner self, for lack of a better word, that can somehow take that thought and turn it into a bodily movement. This is where the glitch lies, because that is a fiction. And that fiction is at the root of probably most everything that we suffer from emotionally, in my opinion, because although, of course, we suffer from just the regular losses and impermanence of life, I personally, at least, suffer from this deep belief that I have some power to make a change in my life that I'm just not figuring out. I'm not clever enough. I'm not working hard enough to think it up. I'm not thinking hard enough to make it arise. And then even if I do get a grand idea, I am not figuring out how to implement that idea and put it into action. And even as I say all of this, I realize that part of the trap is that we are really trained, especially in this American culture, from a very young age, to believe that not only do we have choices, and not only are we needing to make the right choices, but somehow we can personally figure out what those choices should be. So, for listeners who are new to this work, I would say I'm going to answer Martin's question, perhaps not in the obvious manner, but hopefully in a way that will give him some peace, because it seems from his question that he is oriented toward ultimately wanting to find acceptance. Now, I will just say at the onset here that even the pursuit and desire to find acceptance, or to drop into acceptance somehow, is also not in Martin's control, right? Because thoughts and feelings and beliefs arise on their own, right? Thoughts just are there. Messages spontaneously are there in our mind. And there's no way to force any kind of thought pattern like acceptance. However, sometimes we're lucky enough that if someone says something to us in the right way, or we read something in the right way, or somehow, we age, and with age comes a deeper wisdom, and awareness of mortality and death and acceptance of all of that, sometimes we soften into this kind of inner peace and acceptance. But Martin is coming to me as a teacher in mindful reality to capture what it is I have found for myself, which is an awareness that it is physically impossible, absolutely physically impossible, to not only drum up an idea about how to change a situation, but to voluntarily put that into action. One way or another, Martin knows that my answer is going to be about the fact that we are forced in a way by nature, by physical laws that govern our brain and the neurological processes in our brain, the molecular neurological processes. We are forced by nature to have the brain and nervous system we have that outputs the behavior that we see ourselves in moment to moment. So this is what I will say to Martin. I will boil down Martin's statement and question to: what is the action that you are feeling pressure to do? Now, Martin's statement addresses a global feeling, a general feeling. But because actions occur in real time, in real life, and again, an action is just a bodily skeletal movement like, I got out of the chair and walked into the kitchen to make a sandwich. I picked up the phone and texted my friend, and these are the particular letters or sounds that I punched into the phone device. So those are actions in real life, in real time. I will just say that actions tend to mistakenly feel like something that oozes out of the mind, like some kind of gesture that oozes out of the thought process of the mind. But actions are real-time bodily movements. So let's look at what Martin wrote. Ultimately, he said, he finds himself in uncomfortable situations that he doesn't want to be in and always trying to devise a way out. He adds to that, I am a creative person who would rather focus on my own interests than the responsibilities he is forced into. So for me, the pressure comes to, what is the action the person is feeling pressure to do? Well, he's feeling pressure to devise a way out. So I would ask Martin to boil it down to a particular task, right? A particular task that he finds himself in a given moment, on a given day, that he wants to not be doing, right? Because he says, I want to devise a way out because I'd rather be doing these other things. But it sounds like, first off, if Martin had control over this process, he would first have to get out of the certain things, and then he would have to choose the new things that he preferred. So you boil it down. We boil it down to a specific act. Like maybe Martin finds himself sitting at his desk at work on a Wednesday at 3:45 or 10:15, depending upon what time of day Martin works. There Martin is at 10:15 sitting at his desk, and he's thinking and feeling and beating himself up because he wishes he could devise a way out of sitting there at work. So I would say to Martin, okay, so Martin, what would be an example of a way out? What is something you could do to change that? And he would say, well, I could write a letter to my boss, or I could walk into my boss's office and say, you know what, I'm resigning. And I would say, okay, so how would you do that? He would say, well, I would just open my computer and I would start to write an email to him. And I would say, okay, so you're sitting there at work, at your desk. In order to write that email, yes, you would have to open the computer. So this work really is best to be done in the moment that you're suffering. Because in the moment that you're suffering is when you can see, can I open my computer if my body is busy doing something else, right? And so ultimately, I say that the sole reason why we can't be doing such and such in a given moment is because our body is busy in some other task. Now, this might sound ridiculous, and in a way, it's not designed to sound ridiculous, but it's designed to really present physical reality up against our habitual thought patterns that are really so sure and convinced that there is a way out of our current, problems in this way that I'm describing. And so even if you want to do this work like now, as we're listening on the recording, even if we want, okay, well, how could I do this in a more general way? Well, okay, so look at what your body is doing right now, is what I would say to Martin. Look at what your body is doing right now. And it will always be right now. Always, always, always. Anytime you check in with yourself, it will be right now. So it kind of doesn't matter whether you apply the work in this moment that you're listening or picturing yourself later on, at your desk. But either way, you see that your body, touch your head and really get it that your head is your skull and it's a skeletal structure, that is attached to your spine and to the rest of your bones, because it feels like, because we live in our thoughts, it feels like we aren't actually physically here. So just touch your head and your face and your neck and just realize it's all connected. And your head's connected to your feet. So wherever you see your feet in the room is where your head has to be, right? Right here. So you're sitting on a piece of furniture or standing on the ground. And that is absolute for that moment that you're seeing it, which is fleeting. But even if you looked at it in a continual way, what you're continually seeing your body doing in the space is something you can't deny if you believe in physical reality. So this is the meat of the work, right? As unglamorous and boring as it sounds, what is exciting for me about the work is that there are no loopholes, right? So your body is somewhere in this moment, which means, Martin, at least in this moment, there is truly no way for your body to be opening up the computer and sending that email to your boss that you're going to quit your job, because for the sole reason that your body is in some other task. And what do I mean by task? So it's not only, you can look at it simply as you're sitting on the couch. Or you could add to it, what are the bones doing in your body? You could say, oh, I'm drinking a glass of water, or I'm looking at my phone, or I'm watching television, or I'm talking to my nephew, or whatever it is. See the body, see it, touch it, see it. Now see the surface it's on. Understand, look at the furniture in the room. Look at the trees out the window. Look at in your mind what you even consider to be real. Planet Earth, Jupiter, Saturn, the moon, the ocean, the trees, the ground. Think of things that you really consider to be physical realities that are really there in space. And look at your body and consider it to be the same. It's in the room. You are part of the universe that is made up of matter. And for the moment that you're seeing yourself in the space, which is a continual phenomenon, understand that your body cannot be in two places at once. That's it. It's so simple. Your body cannot be in two places at once. So at least for this moment, Martin cannot be doing a task that is other than what he finds his body doing. And this is frustrating, but to me, what is exciting about this work is that although it's limiting, it's limiting in the sense of what you're doing. You know everything you've done up till now, but you truly don't have a clue, not even a hint at what you're going to do from here on in. And it wouldn't matter how much one's mind is convinced that it does know what's coming next based on, for the last 20 years, I've only done this. That doesn't matter. Life changes all the time. And we have never known from one second to the next what our body was going to do. the mind weaves a story that's very kind of coherent to have some sense of, continuity and selfhood and center selfhood. But none of that really exists because the bones move by themselves and you see that after the fact. So it's limiting to know, okay, everything I've done up till now is not what I had hoped I would be doing. But it's freeing, at least for me, in the sense that, first of all, there's nothing to figure out. There's truly nothing to figure out because your bones move by themselves, which is what I say, actions are involuntary. Because if you look at your bones, you will see them in their movements. And you will also see that time moves by itself. And as it becomes the next second in time, your body is just there in what it's doing, which is truly what it's just done. Now, this takes more explaining, and my books do a very good job of explaining this, and some of my blog posts for sure. But so the work is limiting. It's limiting that you don't have any options other than to do what you see yourself doing. On the other hand, it's freeing to know that it's what you do is effortless. The only effort that we're feeling is the tension, the muscular tension reaction to ourself living our life. And if you come out of that tension a little bit, you'll see that your bones are still moving around the space and you're still doing your task. So the tension is another thing to practice, but it's still an awareness that you get your actions for free. So I attach to this, right? I get my actions for free and there's nothing to figure out. I have to be doing what I see myself doing for the moment, and to know that up until now, that has been the case. I have no idea what will happen next and what I will do or what else will happen externally that might change my life in a positive way or in a way that I like. And the other aspect that I find to be the most liberating, and I try to serve this to the ego that wants so badly some kind of acquisition, is that because what you find yourself doing in a given moment is the only thing physically possible, it is the correct action. Now, I don't mean correct like it's just or morally correct. I mean that it's correct in its occurrence, which means that each and every one of us, for better or worse, is living our life the right way. If you were someone who believed in God and God came down and said, guess what? You've been living your life the right way the whole time. And guess what? You are guaranteed by doing nothing in your mind to live your life correctly for the rest of your life. Now, when I say doing nothing in your mind, what I mean is thoughts arise on their own. Leave that alone. That happens by itself. But the feeling that there is some need to attach to that thought process, which truly is just a sense of muscular tension. But again, that's another conversation. But if you found out that you were guaranteed to live your life the right way for the rest of your life, granted, it might not be what you had hoped. Like the things you end up doing might not be what you hoped they would be. But the release of pressure to have to figure out what to do, how to do it, how to drum up the thoughts to put your body into motion, all of that gets erased. All of that gets erased. So the freedom is that you get your life for free. You get all your actions for free. There's nothing to think up, and that you are guaranteed to be correct in everything you do. So yes, the work falls into the category of acceptance, but I try to offer much more than that, at least to myself, because we all want to be right. We want to know that even if we are not living the life that we think we should be living, we still want to know, well, maybe I really am acting the right way. Maybe that was the right decision. Maybe I am supposed to stay with this job for a little longer. Maybe I was supposed to be spending my time like this and not like that. So that's the kind of thing that I offer in this work. And again, it is a practice. So it's something that needs to be repeated to oneself by putting one's physical reality in the moment up against the pressures and desires of wishes that we want to change things in our life. And even as I say it, I understand how fleeting it is, because the mind, the ego is just working, first of all, to sabotage any moments of inner peace that we have, and also to make us believe that there really is an inner mechanism to, first of all, drum up thoughts. And then even if you have the right thoughts that you like, to somehow translate those thoughts into a way to make your bones move in a way that puts you into the tasks that you wish you were doing. That is a myth. I call it The Myth of Doing, as is the title of my second book. And it's fiction. And that's what I'm going to say for now. Thank you for listening to the Q&A series with Jill Eng, Mindful Reality. And if you are interested in coaching sessions or personalized recordings, please refer to the website at jillengmindfulreality.com. Thanks, and see you next time.